makeshift stall. Sean prided himself on his bargaining skills, but this time, he offended the vendor and we walked away empty-handed. Halfway through dinner, Sean decided the vendor's price had been fair, and he slunk back to buy the dress at full cost. I was naked underneath the dress. We'd spent the last 2 summer months traveling through China, where I'd often declared some days too hot for underwear. I'd tie my long hair up off my neck and wear a simple sundress and sandals. Sean liked to joke that there was only a thin piece of material protecting my most intimate parts from all of China. But I never felt exposed, until that night on Koh Pha Ngan. That night I wasn't naked under the dress because of the heat. Hours earlier, I'd been wearing board shorts and a tank top. Hours earlier, Sean had been alive. We'd been holding hands, walking back to Cabana 214 along Had Rin Nok, or Sunrise Beach. The tall palm trees lining the edge of the shore were motionless. The sea was calm. Darkness was starting to fall, though it was still warm and sticky. It was like every other evening on Koh Pha Ngan. We were planning a quick shower, and then drinks and dinner. We knew we were spending too much money on food, but had decided not to worry about our finances in paradise. Outside our cabana, Sean grinned and flashed his dimples as he set his glasses down on the porch, an invitation to wrestle. I hesitated. He was much bigger and much stronger. I had no hope of not being pinned, much less pinning, but I dropped my sunglasses and kicked off my flip-flops. I lost badly. Soft white sand stuck to my coconut-scented skin, still oily from a cheap massage on the beach that afternoon. I was not a good loser, and threw sand at him as he disappeared into our cabana. I headed straight for the ocean to rinse off, the water so warm I didn't hesitate. I could hear boys drinking and laughing on the cliff high above me. Sean reappeared and made his way to the shore. Without his glasses, he couldn't see where I was. I took off my wet tank and threw it at him. He grabbed it and waded over to me, laughing. I had no idea where you were until you threw your top. I hugged him and circled my legs around his narrow waist. You didn't have to throw sand, miss. I made excuses. I was just playing, and I was losing. Yes, you were losing. He knew me too well. He paused, and I felt guilty for being so immature. It's only because I got in my eyes and I couldn't see, he said. I rubbed my nipples against the small, dark patch of hair on his chest and apologized. In my head, I was revising our plan for the evening to include sex before showering, and then drinks and dinner. He held me in the warm, waist-deep water as I wrapped my legs tighter around him. We kissed, and I could taste the seawater salt on his tongue. I felt something large and soft brush against the outside of my thigh. I flinched and gave a short yelp. Sean had always been afraid of sea creatures and quickly asked what it was. He'd been particularly nervous about sharks, and since our arrival on the island had kept asking me, "Don't most attacks happen in shallow water?" I was studying to be a marine biologist and knew how unlikely a shark attack was, especially in Thailand. I kept assuring him that he was more likely to be struck by lightning. I just felt something, I began, but hadn't finished the sentence when Sean flinched and dropped me. I was thinking that he was going to hear about this later, dropping me into whatever had frightened him in the water, but he was already making his way as fast as he could to the beach, running and pulling through the darkening turquoise sea with his hands. His movements were urgent and awkward, his elbows held high, his fingers splayed. I followed him to the water's edge. He sat down on the wet sand. "Miss, it's all over my legs." I bent down in the fading light and could barely make out a faint red welt rising on his ankle. "It's probably a stingray." Whatever bumped me in the water had felt substantial and solid. Other than the small welt, I couldn't see any marks on his legs. After the ray brushed my thigh, Sean must have inadvertently stepped on it. I'd been with people stung by stingrays.